Well, thank you all again so much for being here today. We just greatly appreciate your time and effort to not only drive here, but participate and amidst the busy work schedule, but also a busy Christmas season as well. And so once again, just thank you. And we're so glad that y'all are all here. So I think I've met a few of you over the course of our last training and today, but just to reintroduce myself, my name is Lane Moss. I am our Director of Strategic Initiatives here at IMMERSE. I've been on staff for about 2 years. And so as we keep rolling, I'm going to introduce our panel. You never know what's going to happen around here. So today, looking back, we've had our presentation over growth and transformation, the different components of the brain in adolescence, trauma therapy, and how that can relate to programming, transformational experiences, and then you even got to practice some of those for yourself. I just want to note on that activity, that was amazing. Like, those are things that you could implement in an office space, outside in a parking lot. These are things that could happen any day in your practice. And so thank you so much, Kirks, for leading us in that. And so now, as we move from our experiential activity, I want to give us a chance to just listen more, but we're going to hear from people who engage in this work every single week. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. So first, we have Justin Kirks, who y'all just interacted with for a little bit. But to give a little bit more context about Kirks here, he is our recreational manager, and so he oversees our rec therapy as well as those transformational experiences we've talked about. As you have already noticed, he's a pro at facilitation, and he has a background in wilderness therapy, school-based settings, outdoor adventure, resident life, you name it. And so I'm excited for y'all to hear more about his background. He is a husband to Anna and a father to Wilder and River. And personally, he loves hiking, rock climbing, camping, and just being outdoors at any time of day. Next, we have Kathy Baker, who is one of our trauma therapists. She's actually at our site in Conway, Arkansas, working with our foster and adoptive teens. She recently graduated with her MSW from the UALR School of Social Work, just right down the road. And she herself also loves traveling, walking, camping, especially with her 17-year-old son, Charlie. And then here in the middle, we have Samuel. Samuel is one of our life-based youth. He's been in our program for about 4 months. He is 19 years old, and he is currently enrolled in Pulaski Tech's culinary program. But also about Samuel, he loves rock climbing, fishing, cooking, and he is one of our MVPs with transformational experiences, and he engages very, very consistently in those. And so I thought he'd be perfect for y'all to hear today. And so once again, thank y'all for joining and being a part. And so I think I've talked about it a little bit, but each of you represent different roles within IMMERSE's growth and transformation program. So we have therapy, recreation, and then we have one of our own young people who experiences it. That challenge by choice, personally engages himself. And so just want to learn more about your involvement and what that looks like. So Kathy, let's start with you. So this summer, you joined our team as a trauma therapist after graduating with your master's, and she recently got her LMSW. So I just want to give a quick round of applause for that one. And so tell us about your journey to become a therapist and even what led you here to IMMERSE.
Sure. So as she mentioned, my son Charlie, he's 17. He has autism, sensory disorder, a lot of behavioral challenges. And so my heart quickly grew into wanting to help other families and parents. Now I can say I've been on both sides. And I knew I developed a passion for the therapy side. Mm-hmm. I noticed those behaviors, and I noticed pretty quickly that it's important with autism to lean in with a trauma lens, even if there's no other trauma. Existing in the world can be traumatic. And just kind of paying attention to those behaviors. So kind of flash forward with my internships. I initially wanted to go into elementary, pediatric. God had a different plan for me, and I'm so glad he did. My first internship fell through, and I went to a homeless shelter and worked with young adults. Most of them were around 19 to 25. A good majority of those were from foster care. So my heart just grew. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see you, God. I'm seeing where you want me to be. And then they were like, we got to move you from this internship. I'm like, okay, God, what's going on? I thought I was with young adults now. And they're like, we're going to put you at a high school with teenagers with behavioral challenges, developmental delays. And I'm like, okay. It was a school called Compass Academy in Conway. So 47% of that student population came from foster and adoptive care. So they had trauma, developmental delays, and I'm like, okay. I developed my heart. I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I prayed to God, I want a job where I work with this population. I can take my time building relationships. Is it out there? One day I got a call that said, IMMERSE Conway wants to come tour your school. Will you host Micah and Kate? And I'm like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, this is it. They invited me to their opening of Conway, and I wanted to be a part of it. I fell in love. I researched the company. And when an opening popped up, I'm like, God, I'm going for it, and here I am. They hired me, and it's been amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Kathy. And we're just so grateful that you're here as one of our therapists.
Thank
and
you.
just in your work day in and day out, I get to see you invest in our young people in a whole holistic manner. And so something I even want to know about Kathy is Kathy recently went back to school and got her master's, but she was engaging in a lot of these therapeutic interventions like way before she became like an official clinician therapist with a license. And so there's so many interventions that you can engage in with your own clients without having that title. And so Kathy, I'd love for you to even share a little bit about that. Can you tell us 3 to 4 things that help you build rapport with your youth once they start therapy, and what types of interventions do you even engage with them?
Sure. So honestly, we first start out with the basic housekeeping, right? This is who I am. This is my role. And then I usually open it up for them to ask me questions. I find with adolescents, they're kind of taken aback by that. They're like, most people don't ask us. They just jump in. And I think that's the first building block of that rapport. And then I kind of go into, it's a safe place. You know, we have confidentiality, but most things you say, stay in this space. I've always been met with, that's great, but I don't want to be here. And I validate that. And I find that then I kind of move into, you know, you're right, that's hard. I don't like to do things I don't want to do. But you do have a choice once we're in this room of what we do moving forward. And I'm going to guide you, but you're leading it. We're in this together. And I find that fostering that sense of agency keeps them encouraged throughout the process. And then as far as 3 to 4 things, we get out of the walls. I've been doing therapy for 7 months. I've only done 3 sessions in an office. I've done sessions on a basketball court, fishing, hiking. We do carpool karaoke. I give them my Amazon playlist. If they want to tell their trauma narrative, they'll build me a song list. And believe it or not, it's telling it. And I'll get home and listen. I'm like, this is amazing. I am flexible. Sometimes I'm driving to do something. I'm like, this isn't hitting. And I'll notice, like, one of them saw an airport, and he wasn't interested in the pumpkin patch. It was that airport. So I turned that car around. We watched planes take off. We related that to therapy. And so it's just taking the time to build that rapport, however long that takes. And that's how we do it.
No, that's awesome. I think just a couple things that I noticed you saying of engaging everyday things like music, like an Amazon playlist, and how that can be an outlet for a young person right at your fingertips. And even kind of the components that Julie mentioned earlier of those positive experiences, giving a space to talk about feelings and providing safe adults for them to process things with. And so that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And so Kirk, I'm going to move over to you. You work with our young people in a pretty unique way, as we just saw with these activities and even in some of these photos. And so just want to hear from you. How did you get involved with recreational programming?
Yeah, man, that's great. That's a long story. So I graduated with a bachelor's degree in English from a college in Louisiana. That's where I'm from. I immediately moved up to North Carolina, and I was a trail guide and a climbing instructor and a whitewater raft guide. And that was kind of my introduction to working with youth, was just being out in the wilderness with folks. That led into a job working at a wilderness therapy program in North Georgia. And I worked with youth who did not want to be there, who had made some significant errors or mistakes in life where their parents were like putting them out into the woods for 8 to 12 weeks, and it was transformative, not just for them but for me. What I realized is that I was drawn out into the wilderness, that the things that I believed about myself were broken down, and that was actually the time in my life when I became a Christian, and that I became like God started teaching me about how he has built me to be. I thought, it was time to kind of move out of the woods. I went and got my master's in teaching, and I moved into the classroom. I was a classroom educator for several years. I've taught high school English. I moved up to the college level, and I was working in student programming and student development at a university back in Louisiana. And then have also worked as a high school assistant principal. And then God just kind of drew me back out into the woods a bit. One conversation I was having earlier was that the farther I get away from youth, the less happy I realize I am. And so working in administration, I really wanted to be back in youth experience in direct programming. So I went back to work for Arkansas 4-H. I worked out at the 4-H Center for 2 years, working with the Excel program at Arkansas Outdoor School. And what I've realized from that is that God has uniquely designed me to be right here. Like all of the different experiences that I've had, from wilderness therapy to residence life to doing outdoor programming to leading trips in schools, all fit perfectly here. And so I get to help, Jimmy make a huge impact here with the youth in IMMERSE. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We're also very glad that you're here, and your excitement and curiosity for learning, like within yourself, is just so evident, and it's even contagious for our staff, but also for a lot of our young people. And so I think it takes that curiosity and that learning that like you yourself experience. Like it takes that for all of us to want to go try new things, and that all adds to that never-ending story that we have. And that's the same for our young people as well. And so how do you get young people to just try out a transformational experience?
Oh man, what I found is it doesn't take a whole lot. Most young people, I think, are excited about novelty, about new things. Really the word fun. It's like a 3-letter word that I want all of you guys to go back through and just give yourself permission to just engage in activities with no other purpose but to have fun. Because like what Jimmy was saying is like the job of young people is to have a good time. It's just to have fun. It's how we learn most of the social skills and the things in our lives. And for a lot of our young people, that element was taken away. They didn't have that option in a lot of the contexts in which they were growing up. And so we even discussed it. Thank you very much for bringing up that point during our initiative of like, how many things are we putting on our young people? Like, let's just remove some of those expectations. Let's just let them have a good time. What do you want to do? That's a huge question that Kathy brought up, is like, who are you? Why don't you ask questions to me? If we ask our young people, what do you want to do? And we start guiding that response, and we start following that response, oh my gosh, it's awesome. I think young people don't tend to worry about the things we think they worry about. We were at a conference recently, and they had done some studies about anxieties leading up to a trip. We, as trip leaders, think that young people are worried about group dynamics or how they're going to be perceived socially. They're not. They're worried about where they're going to sleep, what they're going to eat, and where they're going to go to the bathroom. And if you can give some context to those things, man, they will just jump in the van. So framing an experience in terms of, here's when we're going to be back, here's some control over it, that helps a lot.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And those are just some practical tools that you mentioned of sometimes it's just going the extra step and asking a follow-up question, and a youth might tell you something they've never shared before. Or if you give them just a little bit of context going into something, it dispels a lot of anxiety, even on the front end. And so they're probably more likely to try it a little bit. So thank you for sharing that. And I think a big thing within just trying it out is that within those transformational experiences, kind of those out-of-the-box things that somebody's probably never tried before. And so, Samuel, I do want to jump to you because I know that you've been able to engage in a lot of those experiences in the last 4 months. I think from Kirk's, I've just heard your name over and over again of he's trying this. And so when I was thinking through this panel, like you were the person that I definitely wanted to ask a little bit more about it. And so thank you for being here. But also I wanted to ask you, like, how did you first feel about transformational experiences when Kirk's asked you, and even what was the first thing you did?
Well, I had got here on a Tuesday and was coming up here for orientation meetings and stuff like that, and had begun meeting people, met Kirk's, talked to him a couple times, and then that Thursday I was up there for some lunch, and he was like, hey, we're going to go rock climbing. at 2 o'clock. Are you free? Do you want to try it? And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of fun. I don't have anything better to do, so I'll go ahead and go. Went there, had a good time. Wasn't sure if I was going to go next week because I was automatically sore. But next week came around and I was like, I don't have anything better to do. So I just kept going and it was fun and I've enjoyed going on that. And that led to other transformational experiences such as hiking, yoga. We went to Dolphin Island in Alabama.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Even a few of those photos that we've displayed in the slideshow, Samuel's actually in a lot of those with him fishing on the boat too. So that's amazing. And I think I love what you said of when you tried one thing, it opened the door to willingness to keep trying, and that more of that challenge by choice element that Kirks was mentioning earlier. And a lot of it just took somebody asking, do you want to go do this? Let's think outside the box. And so I think I noticed you also said you have gone rock climbing more than once. He's not kidding about the soreness, by the way. It's insane. But so tell me more about that. Have you kept going? What has that been like for you?
I've kept going. I've gone every week consistently, minus a couple where we didn't have the availability to go. And I have grown in my skill level, went from climbing easy walls and doing a little bit of the other stuff that's in the gym, such as it's called bouldering, just another form of rock climbing. And I've grown to where I'm doing progressively harder and harder routes. And I've also gotten the opportunity, IMMERSE, if you go so many times, they will let you get, it's called belay certified. So I've done that. Then they buy your own harness and your own climbing shoes, done that. So I've been able to transform it from just the occasional thing to a full-time hobby where I go at least once a week, normally 2, maybe even 3 times.
That's amazing. Yeah.
He's climbing V3s, which if you know anything about climbing, that's kind of tough actually. So he's gone from like, just I'm gonna get to the top to climbing specific routes to, I think this last week you learned a knee bar. He's learning different climbing techniques. We're on a bouldering team together, so tonight we'll actually be going to compete with our bouldering team, the Team Overcomers.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, even starting to use some of that vernacular of the more you learn about it, the more you do it, the more you're learning. And even with being belay certified, you can teach other people. It's kind of what Jimmy mentioned earlier. Instead of saying, go climb that wall, it's okay, I'm right here with you. I'm going to help you get up the wall with the rope and even coaching you. So love to hear that you're growing in those skills, but it wasn't just a 1, maybe 2-time thing, but it's become a hobby, a skill set, and also an outlet for growth and even healing, challenge by choice. And so that's just what it can look like on a practical level. And even the consistency that you mentioned of going 2 to 3 times a week of what that's done like for your own health. And so that's amazing to hear. And I think that's how far you've come, but it started as something that was facilitated in a meaningful, beneficial way with some of those processing questions to set it up in such a way that you're like, okay, I do want to go back. Like, oh, I'm growing. Oh, someone's processing my growth with me. I want to keep going and building my skills. And I know Kirks was the person that got to experience that with you. And so, Kirks, I did want to ask you, how do you, and everybody has their own style of facilitation, their own magic element, but what's that magic element for you to make something ordinary into transformational?
Man, okay, so I think it can apply in almost any context. Like what we talked about earlier, there's an experience. What we're really talking about is facilitating what kinds of experiences can become transformational experiences. Almost anything. Like, you see a lot of people using Dungeons and Dragons for therapy. Like, that can be the kind of experience. Really, like, youth choice is a huge part of it. There's, in the outdoor industry, there's this phrase, challenge by choice. And that's something that we don't like just give lip service to, we take to heart. youth will only grow to the element that they get to choose how far they grow. If you push somebody into growth, that doesn't work. And so we give them layers that they can choose. So, we have this weekly rhythm of rock climbing. We invite youth into it. You can come every Thursday from 2 to 3:30, and we go and we have fun. You can get introduced to the sport. If you come 10 times and you get belay certified, which I never force anybody to, I just might offer it. Hey, you seem like you're interested in this. Would you be interested in getting belay certified? Sure, we'll pay for it. If you get belay certified and you come 10 weeks, we'll buy you a harness and shoes. What Jimmy was kind of talking about is we start off, and then once they show interest and they get excitement about it, we start decreasing the barriers for this hobby. And so, challenge by choice with different layers of getting into it is really important. A second thing that I think you could just take with you is get as close to the natural world as you can in your context. Nature is your co-facilitator. And so for some of us, all of our program is in a building. It's in dead walls. Bring in plants. Bring in as much life as you can. If the only thing you can do is get outside, like if you're in a school-based setting and you can get outside to a football track, get outside to a football track. There is no bad weather. There's just bad clothing. And so you might think about what are the barriers to my youth experiencing natural settings. I'm going to get big coats. I'm going to get mittens. I'm going to get hand warmers. And we're going to walk outside during this session. Get them as close to a natural setting as possible, because that does so much stuff for our brain. Movement, especially for young people, but we've learned therapeutically is that bilateral movement. Walking and talking gets so much more out of young people than sitting and staring. I found that even throwing, kind of what we were doing with the thumbsy palmsy, that's bilateral movement. It stimulates both sides of the brain. It will get your youth making connections they never did before. And the last one I think is fun. Youth are wired for fun. If you can make it seem a little silly, or just exciting, they are way more likely to engage. So that's my secret sauce.
Awesome, thank you. And all of that, it's so practical. These are things that we could do in any setting. And so I hope even if there's one thing that Kirk's mentioned today that y'all are able to take away, a practical tool to use. And so even Kathy, I want to ask you the same question. As a clinician, what are some ways that you bring creativity into your work, or what are things that we could take away from here, even if we don't practice one-on-one trauma therapy?
Sure. I think the most important thing to take away is almost an unlearning process of what everything is supposed to look like, and be flexible, meet your client where they're at, and let them take the lead. And sometimes you're going to be shifting what you're doing. It doesn't mean anyone's doing anything wrong. It's just unlearning everything and going back. And so some things I've done, I have a child that struggles with grief, for example, and some developmental delays, but he loves to play Chutes and Ladders. So I designed 4 Chutes and Ladders games specific to his trauma narrative and his grief. And I just kind of cater to them and let them take the lead. Like I said, I have one that she karaoke's with me all over Conway, and we're pretty famous downtown now, by the way. Especially at Toad's Lake Square. I'm from Conway, so we've had some repeat people watch us, and it's a lot of fun. So it's just, and honestly, lean into the fun, like Kurt says. That's so important. Humor goes a long way with teens, and when you show them that you're human too, it just takes off in a beautiful way, I think.
That's awesome. When you show them you're human too, I think that's really great, Kathy. One of your clients who wouldn't want therapy from Kathy, honestly. But no, I love what you mentioned, being flexible, and no matter the setting, whether it be in your office and you're playing Chutes and Ladders that's designated for the activity, or stepping outside to play basketball, or just going in the drive, going on a drive in the car, playing music, and seeing how that translates over to a youth. So thank you for highlighting just some super simple things that we can all do. And so I know we're running out of time, and so I do want to transition us and just ask one final question to everyone up here. And so if you could tell our audience one thing that makes growth and transformation work well for a young person. We've already hit fun, creativity, flexibility, But if you could tell us just one more thing, what would you say? So Kathy, what would you say to those wanting to incorporate more therapeutic interventions into their work?
Never underestimate the power of being heard for our youth, listening and focusing on them and letting them communicate with you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Kirks, what would you say for those who want to cultivate, outdoor recreation or even just out of the box experiences?
Yeah. I was just thinking.
I knew you were going to do it.
I wanted it to be on the recording.
I knew it.
It's not all or nothing. We can think we have to go to Colorado or Estes Park or even Dauphin Island to get some of these experiences. We don't. We can start small. We can start with this next 30 minutes. You can take a walk outside. You can find, like we talked about, recreation is a right. You can find natural settings anywhere. It could be in the grassy area right next to your building. There are awesome resources from Arkansas 4-H or from was it Project Adventure, where they have 1 square foot of life, and you just go in there and you get small and you examine it. There's lots of ways to engage in little ways, and so don't feel like you have to jump all the way into the deep end and go on this week-long canoe trip. You can just start small, and so give yourself permission to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. And now, Samuel, want to transition over to you. Just once again, as one of our youth, thank you for being here today. And just to get to watch all the progress you've made in the last 4 months is incredible. And so we're proud of you, but we're going to be proud of you no matter what you do. I just want to say that, here and now, we're so proud of you. But as one of our young people, and I want to hear from your perspective, what is it about these experiences, therapy, growth and transformation, that's worked well for you? What has it meant for your journey?
Well, being able to go out and do things you haven't had the chance to normally do, whether rock climbing, hiking, or even simpler stuff, it breaks you away from the stresses of everyday life. I mean, I'm stressed from going to college, family stuff, just everyday things that add anxiety to each other. Being able to get a break from that, it helps out a lot. And it reminds you of how simple things are. Because in the moment, things can seem way more complicated. Oh, I had, last week, I was stressed. I had family stuff going on. I had finals coming up that I was stressed about. I was like, I have such a short time to do all of this stuff. And it seemed more complicated, but then going rock climbing, just being able to see how things can be just one step at a time.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a good word
You just
right
taught
there.
us all something, Samuel.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Samuel. I think we all probably need to sit with that one for a couple minutes, and that was a great way to end this panel discussion. And before we close, I don't want to rush us out of here by any means. We're about to go on a tour around a couple of our buildings, but I don't want to rush us. And so if there's maybe we have time for 1 or 2 questions, and or if y'all just want to sit and take notes from what you've learned. Yeah, we have a question.
So, Samuel, you shared that the experience and the progress that you've made in the rock climbing. How do you feel listening to your progress, and does it motivate you to do more things?
It does. Just being able to see how far I've come. I mean, rock climbing has built onto so many other things, whether my grip strength is up, flexibility's up, even down to getting better sleep at night. Just being able to see how rock climbing, growing at that, has led to so many other things. It makes me more optimistic for the future. I just want to note, that's rock climbing is an incredible hobby,
But it goes back to like even what Kirks was mentioning of you start small, of like Samuel didn't start by integrating 4 new recreational activities into his weekly schedule. Like, who has time for that? Probably nobody. But it was one thing that now he's practicing consistently, and he's seeing that it's affected in a positive way his physical health, emotional health, coping skills, all of those things. So even if you're able to bring one thing to your young people to practice on a consistent basis, you see the benefits of it. So you have time for maybe one more question, and then I'll transition us.
Is this the only program in Arkansas? It says IMMERSE Arkansas. Are you in other communities?
So IMMERSE is based in Little Rock and in Conway, and we have our programming there. But we are not the only recreational organization in the state. So maybe that's a question for Kirks. What other resources are out there?
Oh man, Arkansas 4-H has clubs in every county, and they do art and agriculture, and they raise animals, and they have a state-run facility here in Little Rock that organizations come and they do camps there. If you're looking for recreation, like Jimmy gave you some resources of how you can lead some stuff. If you're looking for other organizations that can help lead some of your recreation, man, I would call your bowling alley. They want you there. They will bend over backwards because it's hard to get people to come bowl today. I would, you can look for, if you have a climbing facility, that's awesome. Climbing's working for Samuel because that's what he chose. We have other youth who chose basketball. So we have a relationship with a local gym here, and they give us discounts on gym memberships. We provide gym memberships for some of our youth. We go play pickleball there. There's lots of different recreation. So whatever your youth are engaged in or excited about, that's the thing to use.
I think another thing I would add is utilizing resources that already exist, like the gyms, the track at your high school, bowling alleys, the local park. Those are already right there at your fingertips. And part of today is empowering you all as just practitioners to go and implement these things into your own work and using what you already have. We don't need a Kirks, as we love him very much. We don't need a Kirks to facilitate something super meaningful. You all are capable of doing it as well. And so even if it's just 2 activities that you just start practicing more and more, it goes a long way. But that's a good question. Yes, and thank you all again for being here. It does mean a lot that you took time out of your day to be here. Thank you to our panelists for the same, and for our staff who are spending half a day here with you all. So thank you all so much.